welcome to another story time here in Nature, Poetry, and Stories. And today's story is about a rescue dog who was bullied. The picture book that I'm about to read is The Adventures of Miss Bunny and Mr. Freckles, Miss Bully. It was written by Amy Pierce Romine. Kids, are you excited to find out what happened in this story? If you are ready, I am ready too. Let's start! The Adventures of Miss Bunny and Mr. Freckles, Miss Bully, written by Amy Pierce Romine. Mr. Freckles' whole life changed in a road trip when she arrived one autumn day. "I can't believe this whole backyard is mine to play in," Mr. Freckles thought as he ran around playing in the backyard with his older brother Max, who was also a rescue dog. Every moment of every day, Mr. Freckles eagerly waited for Mama or Daddy to say, "Outside!" Mr. Freckles and Max would dash downstairs and meet them at the back door. With the sun shining on his brown and white fur, he sniffed around the yard as beagles tend to do. One day, Mr. Freckles picked up the scent of something new. At the end of his pink nose was a fresh fallen leaf from the oak tree next door. Later that day, Mr. Freckles licked his bowl clean of every last morsel of his dinner. It was time to go outside again and do his business. Off he bounded down the stairs with Mama in tow. The door opened up and out darted Mr. Freckles. As late summer turned into the autumn of the year, things began to change for Mr. Freckles' world. The morning sun woke up later and went to bed earlier. The air also had a chilliness that was new to Mr. Freckles. One day, when Mr. Freckles went outside, his legs came to a quick stop a few yards outside the back door. Mr. Freckles explored the yard on a blanket of autumn leaves, feeling the cool morning wrap around him like a glove. That weekend, Mr. Freckles and Max went on a road trip with Mama and Daddy. Max looked out the window watching the world zoom by from the back seat. Mr. Freckles sat straight up in the middle so he could look between Mama and Daddy in order to see where they were going. He couldn't wait to see what adventure awaited him. Recalling all of his other car rides, the most memorable trip for Mr. Freckles was the ride home from the shelter. He remembered meeting Max for the first time. Being a Dutch Shepherd, Max's body was much larger than Mr. Freckles' Beagle mix. The entire time during the introductions, Mama's gentleness was reassuring in contrast to Max's robust energy. However, Max and Freckles quickly became friends once he heard Max was the next alpha dog after Daddy. Daddy parked the car with tails wagging. Max and Mr. Freckles were ready to explore their new surroundings. As soon as Mr. Freckles jumped out of the car, his nose smelled the familiar smell and saw the familiar surroundings of the shelter. It seemed like a lifetime before Mama and Daddy adopted him. Mama left for a while as Daddy walked Mr. Freckles and Max around a huge yard. Mama returned with this tiny yellow fuzzball at the end of a bright pink leash. "Max, Mr. Freckles, I want you to meet your new little sister, Miss Bunny," Mama announced. The car ride from the shelter went by in a flash and soon they were back home. After Daddy parked the doggy mobile in the garage, the car door swung open and out jumped Max and Mr. Freckles. They were eager to show the little fuzzball her new home. Mama kept Miss Bunny on her leash and close by so Max or Mr. Freckles wouldn't trample Miss Bunny's tiny frame. Miss Bunny was led into the backyard. Once her paws touched the ground, Miss Bunny sniffed the ever-increasing layer of dried autumn leaves that covered our yard like an orange carpet. With each passing day, the air went from chilly to bitter cold. The leaves were replaced with snow, and our tiny yellow fuzzball had grown to twice her size with love and care from Mama and Daddy, along with a proper diet. One winter morning, Mr. Freckles went to play with his favorite toy, and out from nowhere pounced Miss Bunny. She grabbed the toy with the force of a lioness. "This little sister isn't about to take my favorite toy away from me," Mr. Freckles thought to himself as he clenched his teeth and jaws. Miss Bunny pivoted her head from left to right, trying to shake the toy away from Mr. Freckles. "Squeak, squeak, squeak!" screamed the toy as it was about to be pulled in two. The squeaker hidden inside the toy made Miss Bunny jump. With her jump, Miss Bunny's grip on the toy loosened just enough so that Mr. Freckles was able to claim his prized possession. Miss Bunny regained her confidence and she lunged toward Mr. Freckles. Her added weight was like fighting Mr. Freckles' twin, but with shorter legs. The force of Miss Bunny pushed the toy out of Mr. Freckles' mouth. The living room turned into a boxing ring, and this time it was game on. Miss Bunny's survival instincts from living on the streets most of her life made her bossy and even a bully toward Mr. Freckles. On a lazy Sunday afternoon, Daddy and Max were playing catch outside in the backyard. When Daddy and Max came in from playing fetch, Max immediately walked into the kitchen for a drink of water. The sound of Max lapping up the water from the dog bowl sounded like kids playing in a swimming pool, splashing and having fun. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Mr. Freckles was stretched out on the bed while chewing on his bone and licking the peanut butter that was stuffed inside it. Miss Bunny laid quietly nearby, or was she quietly stalking her prey? Mr. Freckles gave his tongue a brief rest. Miss Bunny used this time to pounce on the bone like a cat on a mouse. She proudly took ownership of Mr. Freckles' bone. When Mr. Freckles gulped down the last morsel of peanut butter, he almost choked at what just happened. He couldn't believe his eyes. Miss Bunny had pounced on his bone as if she was stalking Mr. Freckles the entire time. From the bottom of his throat, Mr. Freckles growled at his stalker. Miss Bunny did not release the bone. In her mind, she had won it fair and square by stealing it from Mr. Freckles. Miss Bunny trotted off with her prize as Mr. Freckles watched helplessly. As time went on, Mr. Freckles began to keep his distance from Miss Bunny. When she was playing in the living room, he would retreat to the bedroom. For Mr. Freckles, Miss Bunny became Miss Bully. With the family all piled onto the couch after a long day, Mr. Freckles would lay down by himself on the ottoman. However, Mr. Freckles had not lost all of his fight. Mr. Freckles would try to get Mama and Daddy's attention by sitting in front of them and pawing at them. He did this anytime, anywhere. He loved to get petted and kissed on his head and nose. He longed for the love of his parents, and Miss Bully wasn't going to keep Mr. Freckles from receiving that much deserved attention. One late winter afternoon, Mama couldn't find Mr. Freckles. "Mr. Freckles?" Mama called. "Mr. Freckles, where are you?" Mama found him sleeping in an old blanket. Mama spoke gently and calmly. "What are you doing in here all by yourself, Mr. Freckles?" "You don't need to be by yourself. Mama got down on the floor and began petting Mr. Freckles' fur in long strokes like a painter painting a wall. "You're my good boy, Pink Pink," Mama said sweetly with a smile when she said her nickname for Mr. Freckles because of his pink nose. "You have such soft ears," Mama whispered as she gently rubbed the outside of Mr. Freckles' fluffy, velvety ears. "You're my Mr. Freckles," as she kissed him several times on his face and head. Mama's love for Mr. Freckles overshadowed the pain he felt from Miss Bully. He knew Mama loved him and showed him that she had a special place in her heart for her Pink Pink. Winter soon gave way to spring. Mr. Freckles was excited because that meant more time outside in their backyard. The only downside of going out in the backyard was Miss Bunny used it as a time to bully Mr. Freckles. She was like a linebacker chasing the quarterback down the football field. Miss Bully would run into Mr. Freckles with all her might. Daddy always made sure to put a stop to Miss Bunny's behavior before Mr. Freckles or Miss Bunny got hurt. Late one spring afternoon, Miss Bunny and Mr. Freckles were lying on the bed quietly together. They were enjoying the warmth of the sun spilling in through the window. Mr. Freckles decided he wanted to play with a toy. Miss Bunny lunged towards him with her powerful back legs springing her into action. This time, he fought back. "Miss Bully isn't going to take my favorite toy away from me this time," Mr. Freckles thought to himself with determination. Miss Bunny and Mr. Freckles marched side by side with each of them holding onto the toy with their teeth. She would pull in one direction and he would pull in the opposite direction like a tug-of-war. Growls could be heard from both of the pups as they fought for the toy in the bedroom. The two pups came running into the living room where Mama and Daddy were sitting on the couch. That was the spot where the fight of the century unfolded. Mr. Freckles adjusted his grip on the toy and Miss Bunny used that as the right time to snatch the toy away. She hopped onto the ottoman and Mr. Freckles was hot on her tail. He was determined to face his bully head on and not let her bully him any longer. Mr. Freckles put one leg around her back and reached for the toy with his mouth. Miss Bully knew she was cornered and decided to back down. Mr. Freckles proudly climbed out of that fight, showing her that he was her older brother and she was not allowed to bully him any longer. He finally believed enough in himself to stand up for himself. "Good boy," Mama cheered. "Way to show Miss Bunny who's the second in charge after Max." Mr. Freckles did a victory lap around the living room with a toy in his mouth before retreating to the bedroom. He felt like he was a superhero fighting crime. He was no longer Clark Kent. He was Super Pop. Miss Bunny picked out a different toy and joined Mr. Freckles on the bed. They played with their different toys like brother and sister. No, like best friends. The end. Kids, did you like our story for today? When Mr. Freckles stood up for himself, that's the only time Miss Bunny, our little Miss Bully, recognized that her behavior was unacceptable. Bullying is unacceptable. It can hurt other people's feelings. So if somebody tries to bully you, be it personal, in school, or in the playground, or online, make sure to stand up for yourself. If you're too scared to do that, tell it to your parents or your teacher so they can help you out. I hope you enjoyed our story for today and I hope you learned something from it. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next week here in Nature, Poetry, and Stories. Have a good night and sweet dreams.